purpose of joining the family? We're going to close on Coyote Pass soon.
I'm not selling.
Mary Brown's inner struggle and polygamy revealed. A deep dive. Imagine scrolling through a dating app, cautiously opening up to someone new, and before you can even share a fraction of your story, you're abruptly judged, not for who you are, but for your past. This was the reality for Mary Brown, former wife on the infamous reality TV show Sister Wives. In a revealing interview on the podcast I Do Part 2 with TJ Holmes and Amy Robach, Mary recounted an experience that highlights just how much her past in polygamy shaped every facet of her life, even seemingly ordinary moments like dating. One suitor, upon seeing a commercial for the show, instantly decided he couldn't pursue her, citing her religious and polygamous background as the barrier. The sting of judgment was immediate and personal, yet it served as an entry point into the deeper, more complex narrative of Mary's struggle with faith, identity, and autonomy. From the very beginning, Mary Brown's journey was dictated by layers of indoctrination and control. Growing up in a strict religious environment, she was taught that the only path to the celestial kingdom, paradise, salvation, ultimate spiritual reward, was through marriage to Cody Brown. This wasn't a casual belief. It was instilled from childhood as absolute truth. Every choice, every emotion, and every relationship was scrutinized under the lens of religious obligation. Mary's own desires, doubts, and independence were systematically minimized, replaced with a constant narrative. To be faithful, humble, and obedient was not merely virtuous but essential for eternal salvation. Her very sense of self was entwined with the expectation that she had to submit completely to this life, a life where polygamy was positioned as not just acceptable, but divinely mandated. Yet, long before Sister Wives ever aired, Mary began questioning the foundation of her belief system. The show itself, a glossy portrayal of polygamous family life, forced participants into a paradox. They were expected to portray happiness, unity, and unwavering faith, even when the reality behind closed doors was far darker. Mary recalled grappling with the dissonance between what she was told she must believe and the internal skepticism that was growing quietly within her. She was caught in a psychological tug-of-war, navigating between the external demands of a reality show and the internal realization that she did not fully embrace the doctrines she had been taught. This inner conflict was compounded by a lifetime of blame and gaslighting. Mary described a pattern familiar to many raised in high-control religious environments. No matter what she did, she was considered wrong. She was wrong for how she managed her marriage, wrong for her body's limitations, wrong for experiencing jealousy when other wives entered the family, and wrong for questioning the faith that dictated every action. This relentless psychological pressure eroded her self-esteem, instilled a pervasive sense of guilt, and created a constant undercurrent of fear. Mary's formative years had been shaped by a system that rewarded compliance and punished questioning, leaving little room for personal autonomy or emotional honesty. The intrusion of reality television intensified these pressures. As Sister Wives gained traction, Mary and other participants were forced to project an image of contentment and devoutness, masking private doubts and struggles. On the screen, polygamy appeared romantic, harmonious, and chosen freely by all parties involved. Behind the scenes, however, Mary and her co-wives often faced a very different reality, one of coercion, subtle manipulation, and psychological strain. This dichotomy created a profound internal conflict for Mary. To survive in this environment, she had to participate in the illusion while silently questioning the very beliefs that justified it. Mary's story also highlights the insidious effects of social isolation within these systems. She could not safely confide in Kody, her husband, or even her sister wives, without risking judgment or reprimand. any expression of doubt could be twisted into evidence of moral failing. This isolation magnified her struggles, forcing her to process complex emotions alone and internalize blame for her dissatisfaction and skepticism. As a result, Mary developed coping mechanisms to reclaim some control over her life. She focused on managing her environment, her household, her personal space, and even her interactions, creating spheres where she could exercise autonomy and protect herself from relentless external scrutiny. The psychological toll of living under such systemic control manifested in her adult life in profound ways. Mary described difficulty forming new relationships, particularly with men, because the legacy of her upbringing and polygamous involvement created barriers to trust and acceptance. Many potential partners, unaware of the nuances of her past, recoiled at the perceived complexities or dangers associated with someone from a polygamous reality TV background. Mary's experiences reflect a broader societal misunderstanding of the challenges faced by those leaving high-control religious systems. The struggle is not merely spiritual, but intensely relational, social, and emotional. Mary also addressed the compounded impact of familial dynamics. Within the sister-wives household, each wife navigated her own fears, insecurities, and power struggles, often exacerbated by Kody's preferential treatment and the arrival of Robin Brown, who shifted the household dynamics even further. Mary's need to establish personal boundaries and control over her environment was not a sign of arrogance or selfishness. It was a survival strategy in a house governed by favoritism, emotional manipulation, and competing loyalties. The constant pressure to maintain appearances while navigating these treacherous interpersonal waters created an atmosphere where emotional and physical autonomy were rare commodities. Critically, Mary's reflections underscore the disservice done by both the show and the broader media. Viewers often judge the women harshly, seeing them as complicit in perpetuating polygamy, yet they may fail to appreciate the coercive and manipulative context in which these behaviors occurred. The reality is that Mary and her co-wives were subjected to layered control, religious indoctrination, marital hierarchy, and media imperatives. Understanding this context is crucial to interpreting their choices, reactions, and the emotional consequences they endured. Mary's journey from compliance to questioning, and ultimately to reclaiming autonomy, is emblematic of a larger narrative experienced by many who leave insular, high-control religious environments. It is a story of resilience, critical self-reflection, and the painstaking reconstruction of identity in the aftermath of systemic manipulation. Her candid acknowledgement of doubt, personal struggle, and the complexities of polygamy provides a rare and essential insight into a life lived under both religious and media scrutiny, demonstrating the profound psychological ramifications of navigating worlds that demand perfection and punish independence. By sharing her story, Mary Brown not only illuminates her personal journey, but also challenges viewers to consider the deeper ethical and emotional realities behind the glossy, dramatized portrayal of polygamous family life. Her experience is a stark reminder that what is visible on television is only a fragment of reality, and that the true costs, emotional, relational, and spiritual, often remain hidden until those directly affected find their voice. Mary Brown's battle with gaslighting and isolation. Inside the sister-wives household, picture a life where every action, every emotion, every choice is constantly judged, not on its own merit, but through a relentless lens of blame and expectation. For Mary Brown, former wife on the controversial reality show Sister Wives, this was reality for decades. In a candid interview on the podcast I Do Part 2 with TJ Holmes and Amy Robach, Mary described the suffocating psychological environment she endured, one dominated by systematic gaslighting, control, and emotional manipulation. Even minor mistakes or natural reactions, whether in marriage, motherhood, or interactions with co-wives, were met with criticism and framed as moral or spiritual failures. From a young age, she was taught that suffering, compliance, and sacrifice were pathways to divine blessing, yet any deviation from perfection risked her condemnation, not just socially, but spiritually. The constant messaging that she was wrong eroded her confidence, damaged her mental health, and left her in a state of perpetual self-doubt. This toxic pattern intensified with the arrival of Robin Brown into the family. Robin's entry shifted the household dynamics dramatically, placing Mary and her co-wives under increased scrutiny and pressure. Cody Brown, the patriarch, devoted disproportionate attention and favor toward Robin, leaving the other wives and children feeling neglected and emotionally marginalized. The imbalance of attention and care created an environment rife with competition, resentment, and emotional strain. For Mary, this meant developing coping strategies to regain some sense of control over her life. She sought autonomy by managing her home, her personal space, and her schedule, asserting authority in the only areas she could influence. These measures were not mere acts of defiance. They were essential survival tactics in a household structured around favoritism, manipulation, and rigid hierarchy. The psychological weight of this environment extended far beyond daily frustrations. Mary revealed that she could not safely express her doubts, frustrations, or desires without fear of being gaslighted, shamed, or further isolated. Attempting to confide in Kody or even fellow co-wives risked repercussions, creating an atmosphere where trust was nearly impossible. As a result, Mary became increasingly self-reliant, emotionally insulated, and vigilant in guarding her personal boundaries. Her isolation was not self-imposed. It was a defensive response to a system that denied her autonomy, invalidated her experiences, and demanded compliance at every turn. This environment of systemic control and surveillance created a paradoxical reality. Mary was forced to participate in the public portrayal of polygamy as happy and harmonious, while privately questioning every tenet of the belief system she had been taught to revere. The show's demands, coupled with familial pressure, meant that her personal doubts and emotional struggles had to remain hidden. This dissonance between appearance and reality magnified the stress and reinforced the internalized shame and guilt that Mary had carried since childhood. In essence, her public life became a performance designed to satisfy external expectations, while her private life became a battleground for identity, faith, and autonomy. Mary's social and emotional isolation also shaped her post-show experiences. Having been confined by the controlling structures of her upbringing and the manipulations within the sister wives' household, she faced significant challenges in establishing trust and connection outside of that environment. Romantic relationships, friendships, and casual social interactions were complicated by the stigma associated with her past, the trauma she had endured, and the lingering effects of psychological manipulation. Her experiences illustrate how systemic gaslighting and emotional control extend beyond the immediate household, leaving enduring scars on social and emotional development. Analyzing Mary's experiences provides insight into the intersection of reality television, religious control, and family dynamics. It exposes how structures designed to enforce obedience and hierarchy, whether religious, familial, or performative for media, can create environments where women are trapped between compliance and self-preservation. Mary's strategies for maintaining autonomy, asserting control over her space, and preserving her emotional health were not acts of rebellion, but necessary responses to a system designed to subvert personal agency and normalize suffering. Her revelations also underscore the profound ethical and psychological questions posed by Sister Wives as a reality show. Viewers may have been drawn to the drama, the conflicts, and the portrayal of polygamy as a lifestyle choice, but behind the cameras lay complex systems of manipulation, favoritism, and coercion that shaped every action, reaction, and decision. Mary's narrative emphasizes that the cost of living under these systems is rarely visible on screen. It is emotional, social, and spiritual, leaving deep traces long after the cameras stop rolling. Through Mary's candid reflections, the broader implications of her experience become clear. She illustrates the mechanisms of control, the toll of emotional neglect, and the struggle for self-determination in a context designed to suppress individuality. Her story is a testament to resilience, highlighting the ways individuals navigate, survive, and ultimately reclaim autonomy from environments steeped in manipulation and systemic pressure. Mary's experience serves as both a cautionary tale and a source of understanding for anyone seeking to comprehend the hidden realities of life within high-control religious families and media-driven environments. Her journey from isolation, gaslighting, and relentless scrutiny to self-awareness and personal empowerment offers viewers a window into the often unseen psychological battles that define life in such systems. It also challenges audiences to reconsider simplistic judgments of those involved in these households, recognizing the structural and emotional forces that shape behavior and decision-making. Mary's voice adds depth and nuance to the conversation around polygamy, control, and reality television, emphasizing that the most important struggles often remain invisible until they are courageously brought into the open. By contextualizing Mary's experiences within both her family's power dynamics and the pressures of media portrayal, we gain a profound understanding of the complex interplay between control, autonomy, and resilience. Her story underscores the importance of recognizing psychological manipulation, emotional neglect, and social isolation not as abstract concepts, but as lived realities that shape identity, agency, and the ability to form healthy relationships. It is a vivid reminder that beneath the surface of television drama lies a world where human lives are profoundly affected by control, favoritism, and systemic pressure. Mary Brown's struggle with judgment, autonomy, and life after Sister Wives. Imagine being constantly judged, not for who you are, but for the roles and expectations imposed upon you by a system designed to control every aspect of your life. Mary Brown, former Sister Wives star, shared in a revealing interview how her participation in the show, combined with life in a high-control polygamous household, subjected her to relentless scrutiny and criticism. The public, seeing only the dramatized version of her life, often judged her harshly, but Mary emphasized that the criticisms people directed at her were a byproduct of an environment steeped in manipulation, favoritism, and systemic pressure, a reality that goes far beyond the actions of any one individual. Her experiences demonstrate how controlled environments can distort perceptions, creating situations where those living within them are misjudged by outsiders who lack full context. Mary's current life marks a sharp contrast with her past. She no longer desires a relationship with Cody Brown, yet she is careful not to demean or vilify him publicly. Her focus is on reclaiming her life, establishing boundaries, and achieving autonomy after decades of control and manipulation. This transition highlights the ongoing struggle of navigating personal relationships after years of living under an oppressive system. Mary's ability to assert herself, protect her emotional well-being, and rebuild her identity reflects resilience and a deliberate reclaiming of agency that was long suppressed. One of the most challenging aspects of Mary's post-show life has been her dating experience. The notoriety of Sister Wives and her past involvement in polygamy have complicated her ability to form romantic relationships. Many men she encounters are hesitant or outright unwilling to engage due to the stigma attached to her past. This reality illustrates the lasting consequences of both media exposure and involvement in controlled religious environments, where public perception and personal history intertwine to complicate ordinary social interactions. For Mary, dating is not merely about connection. It is navigating the residual effects of judgment, misinformation, and societal bias shaped by her former life. Perhaps the most profound transformation in Mary's life has been her liberation from the dual pressures of polygamy and the show. By leaving the sister wives' household, Mary reclaimed mental and emotional freedom, discovering that her former life was far more controlling than she had realized. This newfound clarity allowed her to reconnect with her authentic self, explore her personal desires, and understand her own worth independent of the restrictive structures that had defined her upbringing and marriage. Her journey emphasizes the critical importance of autonomy and self-definition after years of systematic control, illustrating how leaving a high-pressure, high-surveillance environment can enable profound personal growth and healing. Mary's story serves as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration. It reveals the destructive effects of constant judgment, systemic manipulation, and the pressure to conform to externally imposed roles. Yet, it also highlights the human capacity for resilience, self-discovery, and the reclamation of agency. By stepping away from polygamy and the reality show that dramatized her life, Mary has not only survived, but also begun to thrive on her own terms. Her narrative underscores that the repercussions of living under such a system are long-lasting. Public scrutiny, social challenges, and complex personal relationships are all part of the fallout. However, Mary's deliberate actions to regain control over her life, protect her emotional well-being, and pursue independence illustrate that recovery and empowerment are possible even after prolonged exposure to controlling, judgmental, and manipulative environments. Ultimately, Mary Brown's experiences shed light on the intricate interplay between media representation, high-control family structures, and personal autonomy. They remind audiences that behind televised drama lies a complex web of psychological pressure, manipulation, and emotional hardship. Her journey from judgment, gaslighting, and systemic control to self-determination, independence, and renewed personal identity offers a compelling example of resilience, courage, and the enduring pursuit of freedom, both emotional and social. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel.